Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review Queen's 1982 album Hot Space. It's good, but one of their weaker albums, not incredible. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks added to my playlist, 8 out of 11, so actually most of them in the end. This album is good, but there are a couple of tracks here that are really not great, and most of the good tracks somehow don't really make up for it. The overall style is a super kind of boring disco, almost new wave thing, which only really works for a couple of the songs here. The others are still pretty high quality, but the album kind of ends up feeling boring as a result. Pretty much every song here is kind of the same, it's just that they managed to make most of them still pretty good. Additionally, the flow isn't that great. It's kind of fine, but nothing special. It's pretty much just mid-speed the whole time. Side 1 is just all same speed. Action This Day almost speeds it up towards the end, but everything else is just sort of medium disco tracks. Side 2 is almost the same. It does have some slower songs to give it a bit more texture, but those slower songs are kind of more boring than most of the disco tracks. So the album doesn't really come together well, despite having all of the same sound. Under Pressure is a great track, though. Fine end to an album, and Staying Power's a decent start, so nothing really that bad. Put Out the Fire is a good ending, and Action This Day is a good... Or Put Out the Fire is a good start to side 2, and Action This Day is a good end to side 1, so it almost works, but not really. The couple of good tracks here are pretty good individually, but as an album, nothing really works. There were 2 singles released before the album, Under Pressure and Body Language. Under Pressure was pretty much the only popular track out of this one, and it's definitely the best, although a bit overplayed on the radio. Everyone's heard that one. For a big non-hit, my favorite is probably Action This Day. It's the only track here that doesn't feel just kind of like a standard disco song, and it wouldn't feel entirely out of place on one of their other albums, unlike most of these other tracks. Put Out the Fire and Cool Cat is also... Those ones were also pretty good. I rank this album 11th out of Queen's 15 albums, so pretty much towards the bottom. This is basically their worst still good album. Everything below this has some major issues that keep them sort of just alright or worse. And while Hot Space does have some issues, at the end of the day the songs are still high quality and most of them are pretty good on their own, so the album is still kind of good. And while it definitely beats out some not great albums like The Miracle and Innuendo, it can't really compete with some of the more decently constructed stuff like A Day in the Races and A Kind of Magic. Everything above this is just better. Additionally, this album does not take my top spot from 1982. That goes to Duran Duran's Rio, their best album, and a much better sort of interpretation and album in the new wave style. So definitely the better album here, although I would say that Queen is the better band overall. Thank you for watching. Next up is AJR's most recent album, 2023's The Maybe Man. This will end my reviews of AJR, so I'm interested to see my final impressions of them after this album. So stay tuned for that, and as always, stay minty.